Hi everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or wanting to revisit an old classic, let us be your guide through the infinite list of TV shows.
So come join us every Friday as we discuss the pilot for a TV show while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storylines.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, where your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello everyone, welcome back to our pod.
Welcome. Happy Friday once again. We're 3 for 3.
We are 3 for 3. We are once again recording the day that this episode is coming out. However, we are getting ahead of episodes next week. We are going to be really busy in December, and we will not be able to do this. So
well, for sure not the first week of December,
right?
Because
so
we're gonna be gone.
We're gonna be on a cruise, a Caribbean cruise. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, as much as I try to resist doing these, I really don't mind. It's not like, once again, we've said this many times, we're not getting paid to do this. We are getting no monetary. We are self-made, so yeah, I don't mind doing it. Although we need to start backlogging episodes.
Yes, at least get a week ahead of each week.
Right. Well, yeah. I would like to do more than that.
I know.
But and we are, just because we're finally gonna have time to do it. It just seems that every time I have a day off, we have something going on. Monday we saw an early screening of Wicked. You weren't sick. You were exhausted and you needed a break.
Bad.
And then Tuesday I woke up and I did not feel 100%. I still don't feel 100% right now. We might be pausing for coughing. We might be pausing for sneezing. Sniffling. You might be hearing some hacking and some snorting. I swear to God, I'm not doing cocaine. I am just. I'm not. It's just this time of year. Every time there's a
weather change
where we live, it is when it's like late fall, early winter, and then late winter, early spring. It is drastic weather changes, and my sinus cannot handle it, and so I get really backed up. I'm not like viral sick. I'm like seasonal sick, is what I always call it.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, because you literally got sick. It was the day the weather changed from hot to cold, right back to hot.
Yeah. And humidity already kills me. And when we go from cold to humid, it kills me. And then last night when we went to an event out in Metairie at the Balcony, which was I've never been there before. If you've never been to the Balcony in Metairie and you want to have a little party somewhere, that's a really great spot.
Yeah,
it's probably expensive, but it's a really great spot. We had a great time. But when we walked out, I was just like, I need it to be cold. That was like the first thing I said. I was like, I really need it to be cold. And then we got on a conversation about global warming, and that was its own thing.
I mean, I was just, I got to thinking when you said that, I was like, gosh, I can always remember by November, I was always in like a sweater and tights and a cute skirt and like boots. And I know I certainly wouldn't be wearing that right now because it's too dang hot. But it was always cool in November by this point in the 70s and the 80s. So, global warming is real.
Yeah, it's an inconvenient truth, as they say. All right, so we are continuing our month of TV shows that have first names in the title. If you didn't realize that was our theme, it's kind of funny because sometimes our themes are a little bit more obvious than the others. Yeah. This one's very specific, but we had, I think I said according to Jim, our first episode of the month, that there is a whole list of shows that have first names in the title.
That one was like easy to have a list.
Yeah.
It was just hard to narrow down.
It was really hard to narrow down. It was really hard to, because we really like to have different types of shows. We really like to have different genres, different eras. But this one was probably the first show that I picked just because I couldn't believe we had never watched it.
Yeah.
And this show started while we were together. So, the cast and who is kind of the creator of it, it just seemed very much like, why did we never watch this show? But today we are judging the pilot for Barry, which was a show on HBO which had starred Bill Hader, which Bill Hader's, he's your boo. He's one of my favorite comedic actors of all time. I think that guy is so mind-bendingly funny. So This was a show that I had heard of. I knew it existed. I knew that Bill Hader and Henry Winkler won all these awards for it. It was just kind of this show that really seemed to be for actors, and I think we both really enjoyed it. We'll get into that more later on in the episode, but for now, Anna's going to do what she always does and give us some episode and series information.
All right. Barry, Chapter 1, Make Your Mark. Barry was an American dark comedy that aired on HBO from March 25th, 2018 to May 28th, 2023 for 4 seasons and a total of 32 episodes. The series was created by Alec Berg and Bill Hader. Berg is best known for writing and producing for shows such as Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Silicon Valley, as well as films such as Euro Trip and Shark Tale. Hader is a well-known comedic actor who got his start on Saturday Night Live for being part of one of the most stacked casts of all time that included Kristen Wiig, Andy Samberg, Maya Rudolph, Fred Armisen, Tina Fey, Kenan Thompson, Amy Poehler, Jason Sudeikis, Will Forte, and Rachel Dratch.
What an era.
And Hader, of course, played my favorite, Stefan.
Oh, yeah.
Hader would go on to co-star in such hit films such as Superbad, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Knocked Up, Adventureland, Trainwreck, Check, just one, and maybe one of your favorites, It, Chapter 2.
Oh, yeah, I love it. He was the perfect Richie
Oh,
Tozier.
gosh, he was so perfectly
And
cast.
him and Finn Wolfhard just looked so similar. And
Yeah.
that was Finn Wolfhard's pick. And him and I think the girl that played Beverly were the only ones that got their choice for who played the adult version of them.
Oh. Barry centers around the titular character, Barry Berkman, played by Hader, a former U.S. Marine turned hitman who frequently deals with loneliness, depression, and guilt caused by his occupation. Barry travels to Los Angeles for his next target and accidentally follows him into an acting class where he meets the eccentric acting coach and develops a passion for being on stage. The series is mainly about Barry's newfound career path while he tries to distance himself from his old life. The series stars Bill Hader as Barry Berkman, Stephen Root as Monroe Fuchs, an old family friend of Barry who served as a cook in the military. Monroe has groomed Barry into becoming a hitman and truly believes he's nothing but good to Barry, but he's manipulative, self-centered, and a bit of a coward. Sarah Goldberg plays Sally Reed, an aspiring actress in Barry's acting class and his love interest. Sally means well, but often comes across as narcissistic. Glenn Fleshler as Goran Pazar, the leader of the Los Angeles Chechen Mafia, who employs Barry. Despite being a ruthless killer, he's a devoted family man. Anthony Kerrigan as NoHo Hank, Goran's right-hand man and best friend. Similar to Barry, Harry dreams of something more than a life of crime. Henry Winkler as Gene Cousineau, Barry's eccentric and bitter acting teacher who becomes Barry's mentor. Gene's glory days as an actor are long behind him after burning bridges with most of his colleagues and lives vicariously through his students. The concept for the show came from Hader when he was an up-and-coming actor, hearing the story of a man who committed murder and then became an actor. Hader took stories from his past and based the characters on people he met while taking active and improv classes. Barry was an instant hit and received critical acclaim from both critics and fans. The series was praised for its realistic characters, relatable storylines, and combining dark and quirky humor. Magazines such as IGN, Empire, and Rolling Stone have listed it in their 100 greatest TV shows of all time. The series was nominated for a total of 44 Primetime Emmys, winning 10 of them, including Best Actor for Bill Hader and Best Supporting Actor for Henry Winkler. You can currently watch the entire series on HBO Max.
Yeah, so this is our only show this month that really received a lot of critical acclaim. I would say, I don't think According to Jim was winning any Emmys.
Yeah.
No offense to According to Jim. It was just a regular old sitcom.
Yeah.
And I think Penny Dreadful was more niche. But yeah, this is a show that like I didn't know what to expect from it.
Yeah.
I knew that it was a dark comedy. I knew what it was about, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be like depressing dark comedy or like quirky dark comedy, which is what you just described it as. I was kind of surprised by how much we ended up liking it.
Oh gosh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Bill Hader. It's an easy
Right.
in for me, which also it surprises me that we never watched it
Right.
I love him.
And Henry Winkler is
Of
a
course.
legend. He's the best.
I waited on Lee Circle at Bacchus like 1977 or 78 to see Henry Winkler as Bacchus,
Oh, really?
the king of Bacchus. Yes.
Oh, was he wearing a leather jacket?
He was not. He was wearing his traditional Mardi Gras, whatever
Oh,
Bacchus
yeah,
outfit
yeah.
was. They would usually announce who were the royalty for each of the parades. And back in the day, there wasn't Orpheus on Monday. It was only Endymion and Bacchus. But we had off on Mondays.
Oh, okay.
And I had asked my mom, I was like, Mom, can we please go to Bacchus? Because we lived on the other side of the river. And so she knew how much I loved Happy Days and Henry Winkler.
I love Happy Days too.
We went and sat out on Lee Circle all day until that parade, because that didn't start until 6 o'clock at night. So, yeah.
Off topic.
Yeah, sorry.
What? No. I have a follow-up question to that. That's why I said off topic. Not to you. Even though it is. What all celebrities have you seen in Mardi Gras parades?
Oh my God, there's probably too many to list.
I mean, just off the top of your head. I know you met Trishelle from The Real World. That's a celebrity for us.
Yes.
Yeah. Trishelle
So, like in law school, I went to Orpheus. Back when I was in law school, we didn't have like a 3L graduation ball, like graduation prom, 3L prom.
Oh, okay.
So a bunch of us decided to go to Orpheus back when Orpheus was now a parade in New Orleans, which was founded by Harry Connick Jr.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
that year, 1999, was right after the movie Hope Floats came out.
Got it.
Hope Floats. Did I say that right?
Hope Floats. Yeah, you got
yes.
it.
And
Nailed
so
it.
Sandra Bullock, Forrest Whitaker, and Harry Connick Jr. were
Dang.
all in Orpheus that
That's
year.
awesome.
That was a fun year. I've also seen, I can't think of his name right now. You might know it. He was in The Walking Dead. He's like the kind of most famous one.
Norman Reedus.
Yes, he was in
Yeah.
Endymion one year.
Daryl Dixon.
There always have been. Back in the day, there have always been popular bands in Endymion, and as Endymion got bigger and bigger, and now it ends at the Superdome, the bands don't necessarily ride on the floats any longer and play. They are actually usually waiting at the end. So I can't think of all the bands I've seen in the parades, but I will say probably the best parade I've ever been to and saw so many amazing celebrities was Super Bowl 44 celebration parade in New Orleans with the Saints and all the coaches and families, and seeing Reggie Bush. That was probably one of my favorite parades ever, not just because we had just won the Super Bowl, but all of the crews have what's called their like crew float. It's like their kind of logo float. And like for the parade it's the alligator. Bacchus is the big King Kong.
Yeah.
And I will never forget Reggie Bush. There's a parade called the Crew of Caesar, and it's like the Trojan horses with like columns. He went to USC, which is like the Trojans, the kind of Greek. And he was leading that float. And all I'll never forget, I was downtown with my friends Terry and Jim. We were waiting for the parade, and that float comes in the parade. Reggie Bush is right in the front. He's holding like the two columns, just like kind of like just posing. Literally, there are women, girls hanging off the edge of the float, trying to like get on it. Mostly because this was so not a surprise. I mean, I think people gave us a chance. I mean, sort of a chance. Everyone thought the Colts would win, but we knew we would win.
Yeah.
This parade was organized in like 2 days.
Right.
And so I don't think all the complete like barricades and things like that, police presence were totally like everywhere. I mean, literally these girls were on the float hanging off of it. I was like, someone is going to die.
Yep.
But that was just my visual of that float coming down was Reggie Bush posed on the Caesar float, and girls just like going Reggie, literally hanging off the float. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, I've seen probably so many celebrities. Right. It's just really like hard for me to catalog in my head, especially in my much younger years.
Okay.
But yeah.
So. Okay. I was just
Rutina Wesley last year from True Blood, but she was also in other stuff like that we've watched recently.
Okay.
What was she in? She was in Muses. Rutina Wesley. Rutina.
That name sounds like extremely familiar.
It is. As soon as I say what she was in. So she was Tara in True Blood. She was in Queen Sugar, and she was in The Last of Us. She's the wife of Pedro Pascal's brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Got it.
And I was like, I know she's in something current that we've watched. So yeah, so she plays the
I know exactly what you're talking
about.
like
in the secluded town that they just blew up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so each parade will have a celebrity monarch or marshal, grand marshal, reigning king, royalty. But this year also our friend, my college friend, I think you might have met Carol Ann, but she's come to the house, but her husband is
Her name is Carol Ann.
Yes.
Wow, I feel really bad for her.
Stop.
No, because because of Poltergeist.
Well, of course, but her name
I'm
is
not
Carol-
gonna say it. I'm not gonna make fun of her when I meet her. I'm just saying that like
Well,
I'm not gonna.
Especially growing up in the 80s, I'm sure
That's what I'm saying.
terrible.
It was like the era.
Yes.
Yeah.
So her husband is going to reign as King Sparta.
Oh, okay.
And she invited us to the ball, but I don't think we're going to go to the ball because I'll be traveling. But she invited us to come sit in the bandstand where they will toast her husband, AC. That's his actual name, are the initials AC. And I think we might be in the bandstand with the mayor and other city officials.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice to have like actual seats and be able to see the parade and have nice view, not be on the ground with the little people.
Oh, we're gonna be freaking fancy.
Oh, fancy! Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry,
that was off topic.
I went way off topic.
Actually, you know what? No, because this is a show about actors and acting and wanting to become famous and wanting to become successful. So you know what? That was all planned, even though it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I will ask 2 questions while we do the plot summary, but right now, before we get into it, so when I was doing research for the show, I always like to kind of look up where did the inspiration come from, where did the idea come from, and see if it kind of could correlate into a conversation we can have. It almost always does. I'm always also fascinated with where people come up with ideas for TV shows. Part of one thing that I genuinely love about doing this podcast is everything that I learn about these shows and everything I learn about the actors and the making of everything. So when I was looking it up, there supposedly, I don't know if it's like a Hollywood urban legend or if it's like an actual true story or if maybe this was just like a made up Google thing. Who knows? AI can just tell you something and you can either choose to believe it or not believe it. But that this show is like loosely based on like a true story. Who knows how factual that is? I tried looking it up. I didn't really find anything other than like actors who were already actors who committed murders or who were accused of committing murders. That was its own rabbit hole that I got down. Mostly it was just about Robert Blake. But I was wondering, so I kind of got the idea of like true crime. You and I both love true crime so much. We watch a lot of stuff. It's not like we love the murders, but you know, it's something that interests both of us. And there's always true crime going on. There's always documentaries. There's always specials, TV series. What is kind of your current true crime obsession?
The Murdoch murders.
Oh, we just finished that yesterday, 2 days ago.
What fascinates me is kind of just the dominoes falling in that family. And I'm going to bring it back to a reality show that we watch called Southern Charm.
Oh, yeah.
Which takes place in
Charleston.
I was like, brain fart.
Yeah.
In Charleston, South Carolina. And you know, we've seen on those seasons of Southern Charm in Charleston that the women struggled like a lot between seasons 1 and 4 about the men and control, and a couple of the guys who somewhat don't take women seriously. I think also, I think emotionally abuse women in the show. Again, I'm not going to completely, bash all the men. I mean, as well as not let the women take some of the blame for their own actions aside from that, like DUIs and drug use and stuff like that. But I think South Carolina has a long history of like generational wealth and sort of old boys clubs.
Oh yeah, generational misogyny.
Yes,
at its finest.
Yes, and so Southern Charm really highlighted that. This true crime documentary proved it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like in the sense of this family goes back to being attorneys back to like the late 1800s. They held like the one position, I think it would be considered like the district attorney. It's called the solicitor in their town for like 100 years. And so they were controlling all the crime, all the trials and courtrooms and whatnot. And the influence that they must have had would have been massive. And so you start to look at things and go, what was the one domino that finally tipped? And it was when their younger son was drunk and crashed a boat that ended up killing one of his friends.
Yeah.
And it finally woke up all of the friends who, I do wonder if they had been friends with him simply because of his generational wealth, his status in town. And we're all finally realizing, and as we often do, when it's not in your favor, then you do something about it sometimes.
Right.
And so it was amazing to see. And again, we were watching a documentary on Hulu. It
wasn't a documentary. It was a series.
It was a series.
It was a fictional retelling.
Yes. So there are, liberations taken with the story.
Right.
But you sort of see that one thing happen. Then comes the civil suit. Then they want the financial records of the dad. And then you start hearing about all of his clients and start seeing that he's been representing all of these people and none of them have ever been getting paid.
Yeah.
But you see him getting his checks. And so you're like, wow. So he is this supposed like amazing, prominent attorney in town from this family who's been around over 100 years, but he's been stealing from his clients, living this life that really isn't financially his. His other son cheated in law school, got kicked out for plagiarizing. So that one boat accident finally turned families against this family, friends against friends, and opened a ton of cans of worms, including another potential murder for the other son that has not been proved, of course. But you're like, if that boat accident hadn't happened, would their life and lifestyle still be going on today?
Yeah.
You just like, because I really think had that boat accident had not happened, I don't think we would be where we are today. Because when the civil suit happened against the younger son for the boat accident and the girl dying, this supposedly created the path of him murdering his wife and son to try to get out of the civil suit, which it did. I mean, the attorney was like, we're going to drop it. Your wife and son have been murdered. We're sorry. Like, blah, blah, blah. But of course, then it came out that he supposedly did it. Everyone was just like, you were even more ruthless and narcissistic and terrible than we ever imagined. I mean, taking money from your clients, many attorneys in the world have done that. I mean, that's not a first. But to murder your own wife and son to get out of a civil suit, like I just, when we were watching it, I just couldn't believe it. I just was I just was in shock. So I think what I like about true crime series is really not so much the crime itself, but sort of everything that led up to that crime, or all the surrounding scenarios of what led to it. Because in this case, like, there were so many branches of the story that you were just like, okay, he might have committed a murder, he was stealing. And then we haven't even talked about their maid died on their steps, and he got the sons of their maid to sue him, and he stole that money. I mean, it was just crazy, like, how much money this man had been stealing from people over how many years. And those are just the ones we know.
Right.
You know, so, like, I think some of them, he, you know, I'm going to make up numbers because obviously this was not done in detail, but, like, maybe he, you know, represented someone in a car accident and was like, oh, we're going to try to win you as much as possible. He maybe got $100,000 check from the insurance. You know, he got his 40% share as the attorney. So let's say 40,000, there were 60,000 left for the client. And he probably went to the client and said, oh, all we got was like 10 to the client. That was probably 10,000 more than I had yesterday.
Right.
So it's a win, not knowing that it really should have been 60.
Right.
And that's what he was doing probably to so many people that we just don't even know.
Yeah.
And that's how he was, like, living his life and lifestyle. I mean, again, I know it was, you know, very for dramatic effects, but, like, they went to the Bahamas and his total bill was like $68,000 for the family and the girlfriend of his son. I'm like, that was essentially $12,000 a person for that week. It's, like, insane. So, or even more, 13,000 actually. So, craziness.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, we watched the docuseries. We did watch the docuseries about all that, and it really was crazy that it was like each episode we were like, God, this is so crazy. And then there would always be like the hook at the end of each episode. Be like, we haven't even talked about this yet. And we're like, what? You know? And we're just like, oh my, I think we knew about the maid thing, but like and then there was what was his name? Steven Smith.
Yep.
There was that whole thing. Yeah, that whole story is so crazy. It's extremely sad. Very tragic. I know that the sons and even the wife, I'm sure, I know you kind of obviously you want to be respectful towards these people who are no longer with us, who are no longer alive, who died in a very tragic way. But in the beginning of the series, they very much were like very happy with the privilege that they had, and they were very kind of seemingly clueless with how the world works, and it was frustrating to watch, even though we were watching a fictional retelling, because you know that there is a nugget of truth to how delusional they all were.
Oh yeah.
And how they just did not live in reality. I think like maybe closer to the end of their lives, Paul and Maggie were starting to figure out like, this dude is, you know, Maggie had moved out. She I don't know if she had officially like filed for divorce, but she was like talking about it, talking to her lawyer about it.
That was supposedly true.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say I don't know if that's
true.
There
would be records of that, and that was supposedly true.
But a true crime that we recently watched. Yeah, that we recently watched. It's on Prime Video. It's 2 episodes. It's called The Basement, Dead or Alive. And it is one of, I mean, I hate saying one of the craziest because, I mean, there are so many crazy true crime stories that go around. But this one was quite crazy. I think it was in 2010, maybe 2010 or 11. And it's in this small town. I'm drawing a blank on what state it was in.
I want to say like Indiana.
It was
Ohio,
like Ohio, Michigan, one of those like northern areas. But this single mom, her 2 there was like a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old daughter, 10-year-old son, and neighbor just went missing. And it was just like out of nowhere. It was, you know, like the mom was worked at Dairy Queen, and the boss called the police, was like she didn't show up for work, which is uncharacteristic of her. She's not answering her phone, which isn't like her. And I think it wasn't until like 24 hours later when the boss finally like went to their house, called the police, and was just like, I'm at her house now. There's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And
it was Ohio.
It was Ohio. Okay. Thank you. And The Girl in the Leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, The Girl in the Leaves.
I just saw your thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was one of those kind of cases where, since it came out of nowhere, it was super random. These people had no enemies. They weren't in debt. They didn't have the spouses and the ex-boyfriends were cleared. They had alibis, like, because usually when stuff like this happens, you immediately go to like the husband, the boyfriend, a family member. Everyone had an alibi. Everyone that they knew were good to go. So the cops were like, well, we have nothing unless someone tips us off or we find some type of lead. And then they finally found a Walmart grocery bag in the garage, which was hidden behind a trash can. And there was a receipt, a Walmart receipt, and it had the date and the time, and it had the things that were bought. And it was like a rope, a tarp. It was like things that a murderer would buy.
Yes.
Yeah, duct tape. And so they finally got that. They had to go through the Walmart security footage. They finally, I think they saw his license plate in the video. They somehow ID'd him.
Yes.
And this guy had a criminal record, but it wasn't necessarily a leading up to a murderer type thing. It wasn't he had some burglary charges, some possession charges, and then his ex-girlfriend was attacked by him and got him arrested but didn't press charges.
Yes,
I believe that's what happened.
Yeah, that was.
That one was a little.
I forgot about that.
That one was a little confusing, but yeah, it was he strangled her or tried to strangle her or something like that.
Because she didn't want him to have a violent record.
Right.
I think that was, or something like that.
Which people out there press charges.
Yes.
Just press charges.
Yes.
Anyway, so they finally find his. I don't know if they found. Yeah. So they finally found his house because he had 3 different residences that he had 3 different proof of residences. They went to one, and the mom had rented it out to another person. So they were like, okay. So then they went to the second one, and y'all, this looked like just a regular house in a regular neighborhood, which always kind of brings me back to a movie like People Under the Stairs, where you just don't know who lives in these houses. You don't know what goes on behind these doors. And they go into his house. They find him. They arrest him. They go into his house, and y'all, this is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in my life. They showed pictures of it. So this guy was they kind of alluded to it earlier. This guy was very enamored with the woods. He was very enamored with being out in nature. He loved camping. He loved trees. He had this fixation with trees. I think they talked about that too, and leaves. And this is where it gets weird. So they walk into his house, and his living room, it has a tarp on the living room, and it is just a pile of leaves inside of the house. And it's just they said it was 5 feet tall of leaves
stacked.
So first thing they did was they looked through the leaves and see if they could find anything. Maybe he's making a compost with the bodies inside of it. But nope. They didn't find that. They go into his bathroom, and this is where we were what in the actual? So they go in, and he has a grocery bags full of leaves taped to his walls, and it's almost the walls were lined with bags of leaves.
The bags were so stuffed, they look like pillows.
Yes.
They were that rectangular shaped, stacked upon stacked. It kind of looked, this is silly, it kind of looked like he was trying to build a sound studio.
That's what it looked like to me.
He was trying to noise barrier. Yeah. It looked.
It was like a padded room.
Yes.
But with bags of leaves.
Walls covered in those bags of leaves.
And it was one of those houses that was really old, and it had been remodeled a bunch of times. So the layout was kind of weird. It's one of those houses that you go to that was 100 years old, and you could tell maybe a lot of people lived in there at one point, or maybe it was not a nunnery, but a halfway house or a place
boarding house.
A boarding house, thank you, where a lot of people lived. And they were kind of walking around, and they were getting really. It was almost like a maze. They were getting kind of lost in it. And we
then
saw
there was a downstairs.
We saw the layout of the house, and it was pretty crazy. And so there was just, they go to this random room, and there are all there's an end table or something in front of a door, and they're like, okay, well that's very suspicious. Weird. So they move the end table, they open the door, and it's a basement, which was the placement of the basement to the door was so weird that I don't think they were expecting a basement to be there.
Oh no.
And so they go down in the basement, and it's not a full basement. You could tell it's kind of it's almost like a crawl space. And they look, and there's this hole in the wall that leads to I guess, another room.
Sub-basement.
And it is, once again, covered in leaves, and they find the 13-year-old daughter. I don't remember her name, but...
was it Sarah?
Maybe.
Sarah Maynard.
Oh, yeah, Sarah Maynard. She's 13 years old, and he had made her... it was like leaves, and then like her sheeting was on top of the leaves. So it was like a bed of leaves, essentially.
Yeah.
They find her, and she actually has no idea what happened to her family. She doesn't know.
She doesn't know yet. Yeah.
You come to find out that she had been blindfolded, and she had a pillow over her head the whole time. So she had no idea what happened to her family. And so they bring this guy in, the guy that committed the crimes. They bring this guy in, and the first 24 hours, he did not talk.
Yeah.
He didn't look at them. He didn't look up. He didn't do anything. And then eventually he tells them where he put the bodies. And so the mom, the friend, and the son were, I don't know how he did it. What kind of tree did you say it was? Like a birch tree?
A birch.
So it's one of those like hollow trees.
It's massive.
And somehow, I don't know how, he goes up these trees, and he had these bodies in a trash bag and hid them inside of a tree, but somehow made it all the way up to the top of the tree and then shot it down. And it was,
those trees were hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just one of the most bizarre ones we watch a lot of true crime stuff, and this one was the one where I was like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know how this is going to end. It was very sad. This girl was 13 years old, and she lost her family, and you can just kind of tell she never, even though she's, this is 15 years later, she's in her late 20s now, you could just kind of tell that she never really recovered from it. You can tell she was very like kind of numb to it. Other stuff happened that we don't have to talk about, but like it was just one of the. We were both crying at the end of it.
Oh.
It was so sad, and like the little brother, they did like he was supposed to graduate in 2018, and they did like an honorary seat for him with his diploma and cap and gown, and we were just bawling at the end of it.
And what was also about this case that in many of the shows that we've watched like this is how this work affects the people investigating, like the police officers, the detectives, the sheriffs, the medical staff. Because I've always semi-joked that if I was ever in the police force, I would love to be a detective because I love research. I love finding things. But sadly, the sheriff, soon after this case, decided to end his life. And they kind of thought this case was too much for him to bear. And so that was, to me, also really sad that, this work is hard, but thankfully we have, these police officers and detectives that do it, because when they got to the tree, I remember, because he had told them where it was and what to look for. The police officers were like, what? Like, how? Like, because there were no cuts in the tree.
I think they thought that he had lied to them.
Right.
He was misleading them.
So, because the top of the tree was like 20 feet up. For him to be able to drop the trash bags of their remains into the hollowed out part of the tree. So when they cut a square out of the tree, and they had like a mirror with a flashlight, and they looked around. They were like, we don't see any bodies. And then they turned it upside down, and they were like, oh, there are some trash bags. So, I can only imagine like one of these crimes making you an emotional wreck and just sad, depressed, and
there were detectives that were crying while they were being interviewed.
Yeah. So kind of going back to that was the other police officer that was also doing the investigating, not the sheriff who had died. But the police officer, his daughter would have graduated with the son, and that's how we knew about the chair. And he said it just brought it all back, even though it was like 8 years later or however many years later from when the thing happened. And he goes, I just can't believe they remember that and did that for him. And it just makes you think of like, what would he be doing now?
Right.
Like, I see my daughter and she's getting ready to go off and do these things. You're just like, his little life was cut short and he had so much potential. So that's also kind of where I come from, in the sense of, the whole Murdaugh murders, where you're just like that family and what else they, what else is their story, but also the stories of the people who are investigating,
right.
I think are also really important, because we need them too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the plot summary.
All right, let's
and I
do
got
it.
some questions for you. So, all right, move that so I don't hit it. All right, Barry plot summary. Hitman and United States Marine Corps combat veteran Barry Berkman carries out a hit in Rochester, New York, and returns to his apartment. Destitute and disillusioned, Barry is visited by his handler, old family friend Monroe, who sends him to Los Angeles to do a job for the Chechen Mafia. For the Chechen Mafia. In L.A., Barry meets mob boss Goran Pazar and his easygoing, nonviolent right-hand man, NoHo Hank. Barry is to kill Ryan Madison, a personal trainer who has been sleeping with Pazar's wife. Barry receives his gun in the mail from Monroe and follows Madison to an acting class run by Gene Cusino, an aggressive, pushy coach. While waiting outside the building for Madison to leave, Barry hears student Sally Reed reciting her lines. Investigating, he ends up accidentally distracting her just as she is called in to do her scene. Fascinated, Barry follows her in and watches Gene berate Sally to the point of tears to get the emotion he wants from her character in the scene. Madison approaches him, his scene partner absent, and requests that Barry read lines in the scene he's doing. While Madison runs his scene, Barry flatly reads his lines, which was really funny.
Yeah.
He experiences a moment of euphoria hearing the students applaud for Madison. Gene invites him to the next class and tells him to prepare a monologue. So have you ever taken like an acting class, improv class, theater class?
Yeah. So I took speech and debate in junior high, and then I'd also taken some summer classes. Like, I think kind of now it's more organized, like the Brett classes that happen. We had several of those in New Orleans, kind of where I lived at like the high school and stuff when I was in junior high.
Yeah.
And then obviously I was in some plays and musicals in high school, although I never took theater. I did try out for NOCA and had wanted to do theater, but I couldn't do it and play soccer. Choices in life. So I chose soccer and just to stay at school. But I loved acting class. I just thought it was always fun, and I feel like I've always had a really big imagination, and it's kind of crazy because I don't like to be per se the center of attention. I don't like a lot of attention on me, but I don't mind getting up on stage and being part of an ensemble and telling a story versus like me just getting up and giving a speech all by myself.
Yeah.
But I don't mind being part of a group and that kind of camaraderie and coming together. So yeah, I loved acting classes. I love being in plays and musicals and all of those kind of things. What about you? I know you do. You have a probably bigger background.
Yeah. So I was, we've talked about this before. I was a pretty big theater kid. I gave theater kid energy growing up. When I was younger, I was kind of shy. I was very, I hate saying introverted because I think introverted is a better term, but like I was very shy. And it was really hard for me to like, socialize with people. It was just really hard for me to like kind of put myself out there. And then I don't know how old I was exactly, but I just got really into the idea of acting and really into the idea of doing theater. I think the first thing I did was we did a school production of Bye Bye Birdie that ended up getting canceled, and I kind of didn't have the greatest experience with that. So my mom was like, "Hey, well, there's this summer program with Baton Rouge Little Theater that's for teenagers, and it's like a 2-week program. And they put on a production." And so I'm like, oh, "Okay." And actually, a girl that I went to school with, Lauren Regner, Lauren Regner Smith is her name now, but her sister Shelly was one of the Barden Bellas.
Yep.
And much later in life, but I knew that Lauren did the class, and I think I knew someone else that was doing the class. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I want to do it. And so we did a production of Godspell, and which is Stephen Schwartz, Wicked. And I kind of got the acting bug. That was when I got really interested in that, and that was when I really learned about like theater games, improv, all of those games that you play, which I loved doing it. I loved being silly, but first and foremost, I loved making people laugh. I loved being funny. I loved being the funny one, and this was kind of the era of like random silly humor, which I thrived with, and I loved it. I don't know if I was that great at it because I think I got better at it later in my teen years, but I think at first I was more focused on being funny rather than like making the scene funny. And but yeah, I loved it. My high school didn't have the greatest theater program. I went to a public school that was very sports driven. We had a big basketball program, a big football program, and the arts just really didn't put a lot of money into the arts. We didn't have an auditorium. We had to use other venues for productions. We didn't have any money for like sets or for costumes. We had to do all of that ourselves. And I learned a lot with I think it taught me a lot about being resourceful. It taught me a lot about being adaptable. And to just being grateful for what I have. And I think that's when you have a high school theater program that has zero money, you really kind of learn to have a passion for what you're doing rather than just being like going to Central High and seeing their production of Children of Eden and being like, wow, they really put a lot of money into their arts programs, and they probably still do. But yeah, like I loved it. There's a part of me that wants to, like, I wonder if I still would want to do it. Like, I've always, in the back of my mind, like, would I ever want to do theater again? Would I ever want to do, well, now that Theater Baton Rouge is closed down, I don't know if that's really, there's many opportunities, but yeah, I always kind of wondered if I would want to do it again, if I would want to be in a play or in a musical again, and you know, time will tell. Maybe one day I'll jump back into it. Who knows? But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I have a lot of great memories from doing all of that. I always loved it and loved being creative. And unlike you, I did love being the center of attention. And I think that kind of goes with being shy and then all of a sudden getting attention. Maybe that's what Barry experienced, kind of being on his own and all the time and finally getting that attention and then wanting more of it. And I think that's what happened with me a little bit. I wasn't in Barry's situation, but like I was just a very shy kid and I didn't get a lot of attention. And so when I started acting, I started getting more attention and I kind of became a little addicted to it.
Gotcha.
All right, back to the episode. Sally catches up to him. Sally catches up to Barry, and as he tries to leave, and invites him to Residuals, which I learned about, I think, through Pod Meets World. I think they talked about it. So Residuals is a bar, I think, where actors kind of specifically go to and where they use their residual checks to pay for their tab, which residuals are the checks that actors get for shows that they do, and they get like 10 cents, a 10-cent check or something like that. So if you have a residual check, you can pay for your tab, and then they put it up on the wall. So it goes to Residuals, a bar where the class hangs out after classes. He reluctantly accepts, and she and the class try to get to know Barry, although he divulges as little information as possible about himself. Sally invites him to dance with the class, but he turns it down, instead watching her dance and finding himself attracted to her when they share a glance. He ends up talking with a drunken Madison, who suggests his stage name. Madison reveals his real name is Richard Klemp, and he suggests Barry Block, which I thought was kind of a funny.
Yeah.
Sally requests that Barry drive Madison home due to his past DUIs. Outside Madison's apartment, he gives Barry Gene's book, Hit Your Mark and Say Your Lines, in an attempt to get Barry to take the class. Madison gives Barry a hug, which is caught on camera by Pazar's tailing henchman. The next morning, Monroe shows up at Barry's motel room, stating that the Chechens are not happy with Barry hugging. Not happy with Barry hugging his mark. When Barry tells him about the acting class, Monroe dismisses him, telling Barry jobs that put him in the public eye are off limits, and that this is all you do. Okay, so let me get to my next question, my final question. So this is all about like finding a new career path, finding a passion in life. You and I have jobs that we both like, that we both enjoy doing, and I think it's always interesting to kind of play the game, like I always joke with you, the hypothetical game. If you could change careers right now, what would you do? You can keep it in reality. You can be out of reality. It doesn't matter. So what would you like to do?
There would be two. I've always said I wanted to open my own store, which is always on the table. It's just a matter of learning how to actually run a business, which I'm not going to say is so easy. I mean, I think I could shadow a business owner for a couple of months and learn how to, do inventory and receipts and pay taxes and pay your bills and go to market and things like that. So I think I would enjoy that. And the other is, I have a couple of friends that actually do this. It would be to be a travel agent. I wish it made more money than it does. I know that it's done based on commission, so you have to get a lot of bookings and a lot of customers. So I don't know how difficult it is. But I would love that. In fact, one of my law school colleagues, and she's married to a successful attorney, a very successful attorney in Atlanta. So I know that they don't struggle financially. So she can be a travel agent, but she is a luxury travel agent. She does like safaris in Africa and like the train all the way through Italy, up the, West Coast through, Tuscany and Positano and Capri and all of those like very luxurious places.
Oh, yeah.
And she actually oftentimes will go with the groups and accompany them.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
But obviously a lot of times, those careers are very challenging, like I said, because they are almost 100% commission. So you have to sell a lot to make a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to find that clientele, the client base, customer base to constantly be making money. And I think that would be stressful, just in the same way as owning your own business, to make sure you have customers coming in, but not just coming in, also buying stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'll readily admit, if I go into a small business, I really do try to support small businesses, especially since the pandemic. Like, I've joked, I haven't been into a Macy's in like 6 years. I haven't shopped there online. I do try to go to small businesses. But not only do I just go to a small business, I will usually leave at least buying one thing, even if it's a small thing, even if it, like the last time I was in Atlanta, I walked from my hotel to dinner and there was like this bath and body and oil store that had like soaps and bath bombs and diffusers and salts and, face masks. And it was a little pricey. It was in a bougie part of Atlanta. And I walked in and it was this man and this wife, and I was like, your store is beautiful. And he was like, thank you. We've just been running it for like the past so-and-so years. And I just saw them and I was just like, that's amazing that they do that together. And I was like, I felt guilty for then just walking out. And so I was like, oh, I'll take this. It was like a $5 face mask.
Yeah, well,
but I was probably their last customer of the day at like, it was like $5.55 or something. And I was like, I wanted to support them. Obviously I could not afford like a $60 diffuser dispenser thing, whatever you call them. Well, it's a diffuser, and all the oil and sticks and all of that go with it. But, I could afford a $5 face mask. Yeah. So I do like I think both of those in their own way are very stressful, and also being self-employed is very stressful. Yeah. So what about you? What would you like to do?
Well, we've talked about this so many times in life, you and me, but I would absolutely love to own and operate like a little like breakfast lunch cafe. I think with all of my experience with working in restaurants, I've worked at bakeries, I've done brunch, I've done grill, fry, like I've done all these different types of cooking in the restaurant world. I've worked up front, I've bussed tables, I've been a host, I've worked in every position you could possibly think of at a restaurant. And I think that although, like you said, running a business is very hard, is very stressful, I think I would have a better understanding of how to run a restaurant business rather than like a business where I'm not as familiar with like the inventory that I sell. But I would absolutely love to just like we open at like 7 a.m. We close at 2 p.m. Breakfast, brunch, lunch, have bakery treats up front. And I feel like that is something that is in reality of something that I could do. But in today's economy and today's clientele in general, it's very difficult to run a restaurant. We are just oversaturated with every type of business you could possibly think of, but restaurants more so. There are corporate restaurants closing every single day, and there are not just family owned or privately owned
chains.
Restaurants. Chains are closing down, and it's just very difficult to maintain the financial freedom or the financial stability. It's really hard to maintain that in today's inconsistent climate that we are in with businesses in general. The restaurant that I work at now, we get steady business, but I know we're not making like a butt ton of money. I know that we're kind of just we're getting by, but like I just kind of think about that, and I'm just like, God, and just opening a new restaurant would just be so stressful. You would have to be successful kind of right out of the gate, and even then you're not really making your own money until like a year or two into it. You're really just putting your all into this, and I'd have to be there every single day. I would be there from open to close, and I know that it would wear on me and it would be stressful, but at the same time I would be doing something that I am very passionate about. Absolutely love cooking. I love creating. I love making people happy through feeding them, and I love nothing more than someone that we know or someone that I don't know coming up to me and being like, that was the best burger I've ever had, or that omelet was so great. I've had customers tell me that before, and it is just a high of when they compliment you. I had someone the other day at work tell the bartender to come get me, and I came up there. He was like, that was the best burger I've ever had. And I was just like, I made it. I'm just like, I made that. And, it's just, and then someone was just like, oh, these are the best biscuits I've ever had. And these are the best, he was just going on about these are the best biscuits I've ever had. My wife loved her omelet, and it was just, it's easy to, not easy. It's a different type of, compliment when you kind of are creating something and they're eating it and they're just like, this is the best thing I've ever had. And you're just like, it's almost, it's such a, like I said, just such a high when someone compliments your food and someone compliments something that you make, and something that I've always been very passionate about. And I love cooking. The other thing I would do, and this is no surprise to anyone, is I would love to be a filmmaker. I would love to, and that's also something that's not out of reality, because people are making movies with their iPhones and putting it on YouTube and then getting movie deals. So what happened with the guy who created the Backrooms? He's making he posted these Backroom videos. He was 16 years old when he started posting them. He is now 19 years old, and he has a multi-million-dollar deal with Blumhouse, and he's making a Backrooms movie. So
wow.
Like, same thing with the Lights Out movie. Like, it's just, you never know. So I would love to make horror films specifically. I'm such a huge movie lover. I'm such a huge fan of film. I love scary movies. There's just something about movies that I've just always loved. Maybe it's just like having a really wild imagination and just kind of living vicariously through these movies. I've just always loved it, and I think that is something that I would be really good at. I think directing is something that I would be really good at. And yeah, so that would be my things. I'm sure there are other things that I would want to do, but I don't know how in reality those things are. I would love to just be like a trust fund baby. That'd be nice.
Yes, I'd like to be independently wealthy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, win a lottery.
Yeah, Mom and Dad, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the episode. Knowing that he has to cut off contact with the acting class, Barry waits outside the building until he catches Gene alone in his car. Irate that Barry missed class, and at Barry's claim that he will be leaving town, Gene tells Barry he did not consider him good enough for his class and that he saw no truth in his acting. Distressed, Barry tells Gene the truth about his past and job, and worries that killing is all he is good for. Gene, believing it to be an improvised monologue, is somewhat impressed and tells him to come to the next class. When he asks for Barry's last name, Barry tells him it is Block. Waiting outside Madison's apartment for him to arrive, Barry starts reading Gene's book. When he rolls up, Barry walks up to his truck only to find him already killed, shot in the head through his windshield. Barry notices 2 Chechen goons and NoHo Hank in a car across the street. The man with the sniper rifle starts reloading to kill Barry next, but Barry shoots 2 of them down with Hank narrowly escaping wounded. As Barry hurries off, a dashboard camera in the Chechen's car is seen recording. Barry hides out in a diner a few blocks away. As police cars speed by, he notices his waitress has a script under her arm. She tells him she has an audition tomorrow and is an actor. Barry responds that he is too. End of episode. I mean, like, I think we were immediately kind of hooked. We were immediately wanting to know what happened. I know you were very upset with what happened to Madison getting shot because he was so nice. He was so nice to Barry. But yeah, this is on HBO Max. I really liked it. You really liked it. Henry Winkler, Bill Hader, can't go wrong. A surprise small part by Kirby Howell Baptiste, who is on our favorite episode of Drunk History.
Yes.
But yeah, HBO Max. It's 32 episodes. I think the episodes are like 30 minutes long. We only watched a few episodes, but we kind of jumped on another TV show that we will be doing in January, and we ended up getting hooked onto that. Overcompensating, and and we kind of ended up getting hooked onto that. But we're getting right back to Barry now that we finished that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that wraps up this episode. Unless you got something else you want to say.
No, that's it.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
I have the gun, the theater masks, blood, the dance, a beer, drink, any of the cocktails, the drunk emoji, the book emoji, restaurant, the motel, and the police. All right, well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.